I'm alive. I haven't. Every time I go to share this, it doesn't actually work. So let me copy link, and we're going to. And I also love it that when I fire this thing up, I have full bars, and as soon as I go live, it cuts me down to 2 bars. Oh, hey, I got one like, yay! Sorry, guys. I'd like to share this out, but my buttons here do not work. And I actually haven't talked to Wesley today at all. I forgot to get a hold of him. So, how you doing, Bill? Um, Hopefully, he sees the message I sent him on Messenger. Send him a link to get on the stream. So, Wesley may or may not be joining us tonight. He probably will, but my bad. I forgot to say, hey man, you good for 7 tonight? He may be busy with calls, but I have a lot of stuff going on, but how busy I am is nil compared to that man. He's got quite the few irons in the fire, if you want to say that. Yes, I did write. I actually wrote down. I'm kind of hoping he's going to be on because I wrote down the topics that you guys were asking about, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, there he is. Let's see. Okay, Wesley is on a call, so as soon as his call's done, he'll jump in. So I'll try and carry the conversation as long as I can by myself. Just going to be a different stream up until that point. So I'll handle the questions the best I can until he gets on. But like this Slack pill system, before I answered that question there, or read what Wesley had sent me. The Slack pill system was one of the questions, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe Kinetic uses precision parts for their carts, so he would know definitely where that's at. Whereas I unfortunately don't have any experience. Well, maybe I have a little experience with it. I rode a 10 Axiom at one point, but I didn't play with the pill system for the rear cassettes at all. I'm assuming he's talking its lead and then up and down, and how you rotate those little blocks would depend on where your axle moves. But without knowing it, for certain, I don't want to point anybody in the wrong direction for that. Body type, arrow versus bull ring. So talking about things like talking about standard cart bodies. This is where I have a lot of experience with UAS type bodies, with the big wedges and the wings and this and that. Whereas so far, I've only really had 1 or 2 standard cart bodies, and I believe Wesley and I have discussed this before, that there isn't a ton of difference between them. I I thought it was. I think it was weird that cart bodies went back to the tall sides, because I thought the swoops were just the way to go. And as it turns out, I like the tall bodies. Again, as I got into karting, there was tall bodies, and then they went to those swoop style for a long time, and then they got away from that and went back to the tall sides. I think the tall sides do offer, maybe, I mean, it's minuscule, but a little bit of deflection, kind of like UAS, how we have those big wedges. We lean on the air with a big wedge. Well, the taller the side, as long as it sees fit into like WKA standards, you would lean on that air a little bit, the taller the side is. As far as noses go, they're all fairly standard. I believe we've talked about this before. There's not a ton there. I'm sure that if you get on something like a big speedway, something GKK, Possum Kingdom, something like that, I believe there's probably going to be a difference there between bodies. Like I said, I run the Chavis, uh, and it's, all I have around here is bull rings now. I don't have Paradise Speedway to go to anymore, but I would assume that something like that might make a difference when you get on a big track. It's going to cause different kind of downforce. It's going to be, some of the slipstream, I think is one of them, might be, cut through the air a little bit better. But when you're talking bull rings, when you're talking, I'd say anything, fifth mile or less, I wouldn't see a ton of difference in how much air is actually getting on your cart, causing an aero push or anything like that. I don't think, I really don't think it's going to be that big a deal. It's not until you get into the, UAS or open type carts with the big wedges that you see any kind of aero stuff happen there. And I tell you, those wings that we run are serious. Like, uh, take this board. This is what I have. Say this is a flat wing. If I were to tip the wing on my UAS ride this much, unbelievably tight getting into the corner. Those makes it, because it's a natural airfoil. So when it's sitting above your head, it's pushing all this jumper by the. I'll try and refrain, but anybody knows me, we should know. But yeah, when you get into the the big airfoils and stuff, English or Spanish. I'm speaking English. I do not speak Spanish, so there's that. I took 3 years of French in high school, and I can say "Je m'appelle Benjamin." Okay, so there is the body topic. I know that was pretty quick, and Wesley's a little more long-winded, a little more knowledgeable about stuff like that because he's done testing with that. This is really the first year I've run clone. Really, the first year I've been on a WKA body. Well, I ran Paradise Speedway with a KT 100, so I ran a standard body there. So there's that. I mean, this is probably the second full season since 2002 that I've run a standard type body. So tire wall flex. So here, I'll set this down. Sidewalls. And the question was stiffer sidewalls or soft sidewalls. So let's first determine what tires are which. These are Reapers that I just happen to have close to me. These are a little stiffer sidewall than I think a Maxxis is. Have I ever been in Iraq? No, I have not been in Iraq. These are a little stiffer sidewall, I think, than a Maxxis is. Maxxis aren't the thinnest as far as that goes. I would say that as far as tires, I've ran Vega yellows, Vega blues, whatever you want to run. They have the Italian-made tire. They have a super duper stiff sidewall. Great for running super low air pressure, getting bite where you need to find bite. I'd say secondly is probably the Reaper, in my opinion. It's got a little, a stiffer sidewall there. And then you get into Maxxis. It's a fairly stiff sidewall, but it's got some flex to it. And then on the low side, the most rollover, I think you're getting into your Burruses, Burrus 11s, Burrus 33, stuff like that. And I think that the looser tracks tend to like these softer sidewalls. The tire is allowed to move and bite and grab, where a stiffer tire, you're going to want a stiffer type sidewall on something that is really high bite. It doesn't move a lot. It's not melding. I don't know if that's a word or not. It's not digging into the track to where that softer sidewall is really doing just that. Now, for instance, when you run Vega yellows, I have a lot of experience on Vega yellows running UAS. We're super heavy for the most part, especially up here. I'm 440 pounds with my open cart, and I'd run 2 and 3 pounds air pressure in the Vega yellows with them punching down in the 20s. And with the stiffer sidewall, even though, you know, what I just said, hey, we have softer tracks up here, you know, you don't want that stiffer sidewall. What that stiffer sidewall will allow you to do is run those super low pressures. So then the tire's able to move and get bite where it wouldn't, you know, wouldn't normally want to. So you have a stiffer sidewall on a Vega yellow, but a extremely soft tread, to whereas that same sidewall still exists on a Vega blue, but with a more Maxxis or Reaper style harder Duro surface for your higher bite tracks. Okay, went to a track in spring, was fast on a 12 front driver. Now it being summer with the 12 was faster, but it seemed everyone there was a lot changing drivers at the track depending on the season. Still learning. Yes. So if the track is what we call good, drivers are going to make a difference. When a track gets good, that when I'm saying the term good, when Wesley says the track is getting good, that means the track is really bit up. It's got a lot of bite. You can carry a lot of momentum through the turn. Your driver is going to make, you know, it's not a huge difference, but it is going to make a difference how the cart gets up and off of the corner, how it carries itself down the straightaway. So general rule of thumb is a smaller driver will jump off the corner better. A bigger driver will carry more speed down the straightaway. They can be the exact same ratio. You can run 11, a 12, or a 12 to a 13. It doesn't matter. The overall ratio could be the same, but the way the engine applies to racing, you know, to you running is going to be different. It is, you know, say an 11 driver is going to, when you go to pass, it's going to have a little extra on the bottom end to say tuck up underneath. But that same person that you're tucking underneath may have a 12 driver on, and they are going to surge at the end of the straightaway. It's a real minuscule amount of torque, and playing with, you know, how the engine behaves, what your engine particularly likes. You know, some people don't like to turn their engines really hard, and they might run a bigger driver in order to do that. Some people don't mind, you know, with a clone turning at 7,200 or something like that, and they'd be willing to run a smaller driver, use that momentum, or not the momentum, but use that burst off the corner with a smaller driver in order to make passes. I got some reds and blues. Yeah, I used to have, I won a race. Did I win a race? I think I won a race, Vega Reds. I mean, that red used to be or red is now the blue in Vega World. And I'm pretty sure I won a race on them. I've also won a race on Kings, which before they're even Maurice Kings. So before Maury, you know, was owner of Reaper, and you know, he tried to go at it before, but before it was even that, I ran some Kings, and I won a UAS race on a set of the soft compound Kings. How do you know when your tires are too soft in a clone? A couple things. You're going to get your edges are going to start, or the entire surface for that matter. So this is just a surface tire. You're going to start to see it get chewed up on the edges, particularly, but maybe across. If the whole surface of the tire is getting like a rough texture to it, but the corners are the same as, you know, as the center is, it just, that might be a good amount of bite. Now, if you're really getting everything, if it starts shredding the top of the surface, and you notice that when you come off track, you're like, whoa, that's, you know, pretty torn up. The other way you're probably going to be able to tell that your tires are too soft for whatever surface it is that they're going to bite really hard from the go. Like they're going to be super fast. And as the tire heats up, it's going to start losing grip. You know, a harder compound, a harder durometer is not going to fade off towards the end. As a matter of fact, it may, you know, if you're a little too hard, it may actually bite better towards the end of the run, and you actually have faster lap times at the end of a run compared to the front. But it's really hard. You know, it's really dependent on track surface, what you're doing with it, you know, what kind of prep you're doing or anything like that. But basically, those couple things, if you can see visually that your tire is starting to peel off, the edges are starting to almost melt. You can tell that that tire is too soft. But more or less that if you have really good burst speed, you know, you take off and say you're in a qualifier, and you're running a heat race or whatever, and you can set sail right there. But towards the end of the run, say it's 8, 10 laps, whatever, people start catching you or passing you or whatever, your tires may be too soft there to whereas they have the correct durometer for that particular track. So hope that helped a little bit. What else? Front end geometry, I'm going to leave also for discussion with once Wesley gets on here, but maybe I'll carry you around here. I was going to do a video on what your guys' thoughts are on purging down a clone. So, typically, trying to, how am I? Yeah, there you go. I stand. So I want to do a video on this. I use methanol in my open engine. A lot of us do. UAS guys, we run methanol in the open, and it purges all the methanol is alcohol, so it draws moisture into the engine. It causes rusting. It causes serious problems. So we run a mix of non-ethanol gas, and we put Marvel mystery oil in it, or some kind of castor, or some type of oil, and we purge down because I run 2 strokes. Whether 4-stroke or 2-stroke, you purge it down to get that methanol out of the engine. That, well, when I got into clone racing this year, they were saying, hey, you know, you're probably going to want to get a ultrasonic cleaner to put the carburetor in to make sure it's clean. And it kind of got into my head that it's not a bad idea to purge that down either, because I would assume that not only the dirt and stuff, you know, you want to keep the dirt out of your carburetor, but why not purge that? Because the gas you run is, you know, just from the gas station, it's 87 octane. It's got ethanol in it, which is alcohol, which, you know, that's the reason, you know, some of our mowers and stuff have been having problems over the past couple of years. 10% ethanol in there. I think that that's probably not a good thing for inside the engine. It's a race engine. Okay. So I've been purging down using that same purge that I use for my 2-stroke to purge down the clone in an effort to keep, I hear that the carburetors get gummed up. And I would assume that is because of the quality of the gas, wherever you're getting it. The ethanol in there bringing moisture into the carburetor, causing it to get gunked up. So I thought, as an experiment, I'm gonna, you know, every time I run this, so I get it home, you know, break down, take out all the stuff I'm gonna do, my micron, all that stuff, wash the cart. You want to run the engine after you wash the cart to dry it off. I use my compressor and blow it off too. But then before I change the oil, because I like to do that, I started purging it down. So running that purge through it, so it's getting Marlboro mystery oil, you know, through the carburetor and everywhere else. The top end lube a little bit. You know, it's not a ton. It doesn't have to be heavy, just to get that in there to maybe counteract what the ethanol is doing. I don't know if this is something you guys have considered doing, but I thought it was a good idea, and I'm curious whether or not other people have thought to do this. If, you know, somebody comes back and says, "Hey, don't do that. That could cause blah blah blah." But for the time being, I don't think it's hurting anything. Um, I am new to go-kart racing and getting too ready. Awesome. Welcome. Kart racing is fun. I am 47 years old and I still race karts. I know that, you know, people, oh, you got a WD-40. Yep, that'll work. Funny, I guess, funny story to me. So back when I started in UAS, I used to run against a lot of star engines, Tecumseh Stars, and they'd build them up. I called them Tower of Powers, power towers, and they would just purge them down with WD-40, like just buy a gallon, feed it right to the carburetor, you know, Tilly, you know, 380, whatever they're running on it, and just wham, and then run that on there. Run that through their engines, and they had a great result from doing it, I guess. Exactly. That better use non-ethanol A7 grade gas. It we have would it be better for the engine? Yes. Will it pass tech if they happen to test your fuel? I don't know. Like some tracks are real sticklers for it. They have places that they want you to buy your fuel. So going to Champion Speedway, for instance, there is a place around me. When you're going to that track, they tell you for clone, buy your gas here on that day. So they will buy a sample. They can whatever. I've seen it before. They drop it into your fuel. It'll tell the octane rating of it. It'll tell whether or not you have hot fuel or not. So specifically, get your gas from this gas station on this day, the day of racing, get it there. And they actually sell some, we'll buy extra so people can get it at track there. But I'm curious because I know of a place that's close to me. It's 30 minutes. They have non-ethanol, which is what I use for my purge gas, but I believe it to be 89 octane. So it really depends on your local track, whether or not they test fuel. I don't know that a clone would run any better or worse with 89 compared to 87 octane, but I can tell you that having no ethanol in there is probably a good thing. Ethanol, alcohol in general, it draws, like I said, it draws water and it causes rust, it causes problems. That's why weed eaters and all the I'm looking at my Cub Cadet mower right here. That's it it can do a number in it. So I like to run stuff like Marlboro Mystery Oil through it to counteract that, to add a little top end lube to it and stuff like that. Yes, Bill. That's what you can do it at track. And it would be an engine builder, but that's what I do here. So when I wash my cart, to dry off the engine, like I said, I also use my compressor and blow it off and get every extra. But I run the engine for a good 5 minutes or so to get everything super warm, and that's when I'd be purging down the engine. And when I shut it off, that's when I change the oil. So everything's nice and warm, flows right out. Okay, get that, and then put the brand new oil in there for next race day. Nice, cool. So I was assuming that I probably wasn't the only one that did this. Um, they, I'm not a genius. It's just something that I'm used to doing, and I thought, well, it's not going to hurt in order to do it on this one, and maybe if anything. Also, draining the carb got that suggestion too. So I do the purge, and shut it off and everything, and then unscrew the 10 millimeter and then drain them. I'm touching it. You guys can't see. I'm touching the 10 millimeter and then drain the bowl so it's not sitting in there, clogging anything up, nice and dry. Whether or not this engine, this carburetor has worked fine for me. I have to do a video on it. But cleaning the carburetor, I've only done it once. On the other engine, I do want to run it, make sure everything's kosher, but there's not much to it. Um, they're not overly complicated to disassemble stuff, but I do have to do a video on that to show, what the internal workings look like on, for people who've never cleaned a carburetor before. The I'm so used to pumper stacks on Tilly style carburetors that the bowl type, it's a little different for me. It's not hard; it's just different. So, it is what it is. But that's what I'm touching. So I was sitting here having a conversation with you guys. It's weird. So I went to log in and I saw I hate it that I had full bars. There's, open. There should be no reason I have any less than full bars here. We have a tower like legit up there. And I get into this barn and it decides, or I go live and it goes to, I am just a spokesperson for Track Tech. I can come over here and show you some of my collection. But yeah, no, here's some of my stuff that I got sent. So basically, what it is I know that I'm not everywhere. There's Mark Martin too, right there. Mark Martin. um, I don't sell it, but if I happen to be at track, I have a bunch with me, And if I put up a big sign when I race, I put it up on my canopy. I know I'm in Western New York. I don't have the finances right now to go, everywhere to grace, but my intent is to hopefully get that better so I can travel to bigger races, go down, south a little bit, get some experience down there with clone racing. And then obviously, bring those same supplies that if anybody had, hey, I want to try some black sand. Hey, we want to try some of this, some of that. I have plenty upon me, not for sale, but hey, try this, try that. Here, you need a pour, or you're low on something type of thing. But no, I'm not a I'm not a registered dealer for them. Just a rep, somebody who helps people who need answers about it, curious about it, stuff like that. I actually recorded a new Track Tech series video uh, yesterday. Wasn't pumped on it. Wasn't pumped on the way it came off, so I may redo that one. So in the near future, expect a brand new video for Track Tech series. I got some new preps that I hadn't had in a very long time that I want to talk about and put out in the Track Tech series. But I did that one, and I just wasn't. I didn't have my flow. Uh, Makuni carbs. The biggest problem I say with Makuni carbs are they're old and older. At least the ones that I'm used to running, old, 34s and 38s and stuff like that. But Tillies they're essentially the same thing. You could get into Makunis and having that big gross jet on them. Some people didn't like the big gross jet. If you don't know what that is, it's a ball that sits in there instead of just a needle plugging up a hole. There's a ball system going on in there, which, funny story is I run Buller 420s, which are a mock of Tillotson, but they have a gross jet in them. And as long as you keep them clean, they work really well. The marble that sits in there can get gunked up. It can get some crap on the surface there, and it doesn't want to seal correctly. So people have a problem with it. They prefer the needles that just come down and shut off that circuit. So thank you for what you do. I've been racing. Yes, I'm still learning too. I tell you what, uh, as much as I got warned, I did that video. You warned me about clone racing. It has been an experience. Maximizing your horsepower, the driving lines, how you attack the corner, how you race around other people has been a very big. It's not bad. It's just different. And I'm so used to so much more horsepower. And if you're basically when you're off in UAS, you're way off. I mean, left field. You're just your lap traffic in no time. You go to the Grand Nationals and you're piddling around there in the back, and next thing you know, leaders tapping on your bumper, wanting to get by, and you're like, holy crap, how could I be this slow? To whereas you may have a couple racers that can get out in clone a little bit, just for my experience so far, but the group is closer. The tires are closer, the horsepower is closer. There's only so much you can do with the cart to make it just that much little bit. There's no Evan C. Putting half a second on the rest of the pack. If you get 1 or 2 tenths on a class full of clones, you're doing super. To whereas I've seen the times you get down south and somebody like Evan or Robbie or any of those guys go out and they nab half a second on the field. Is like, what? Where'd you come up with half a second? Yikes! Oh man. Correct. Yes. Yeah. If you're not learning, you're not moving forward, and I saw I want to say the bigger picture when I started to lose to my friend Kyle. I mean, I run his dad's engines. Super motorworks, super good people and everything. But I I won't say I was dominant up in New York, but I was very, very, very good at UAS racing up in New York. And I became, I like to think one of the guys to be anytime you show up at the track. In 2017, 18, I had a lot of UAS wins. Well, I don't want to say I started to falter, but Kyle running clones was giving him knowledge about tires that I did not have because I would only run 5 to 10 times a year. I only run UAS. So you're only running on what knowledge base you can acquire for that. To whereas he was running the UAS stuff and then going to AMS, going to the, these clone shows and, running for whatever, two, three, four, $500 races, whatever it was. But it wasn't so much about the money that he was getting more seat time and more tire and adjustment knowledge on the cart. And I thought, boy, I am really missing out. That it had been in my head for a while that this is an avenue I might like to do. I might like to get that experience to know, when you have to maximize your corner speed with adjustments and gearing and this and that, that you can take that knowledge. My intent is, never to quit UAS racing, but to gain more knowledge. So next time I get in the cart, next time I go to a track, I have more bags of tricks that I can milk more out of the corner speed of the cart because that's probably the biggest. Corner speed is king no matter what you're in, but you're willing to give up more corner speed with your UAS ride with your open cart because you have so much, when you get back to the throttle. To whereas if you don't give that up anymore, then you become, super fast in itself. Yeah, it's UAS is it. There's peaks and valleys with it. Sometimes it's super strong. I posted up a video on my personal Facebook page that was 2018, and that was Paradise Speedway, big quarter-mile track. I ended up winning that race. There were 24 carts that started that main event. That was a regular season race. It was absolutely phenomenal to have that, and that was just that was 6 years ago, man. It ebbs and flows. It is ebbed and flowed for the entire time I've been in UAS. It'll come back. Right now, it's a little tough. Economy is the biggest thing. When people do not have money, they do not race as much, and they're not willing to buy a $7,000 Bama to go race to compete, or a BRC or whatever it is, 450. It'll come around. It we hope. We can only hope that it comes back and it makes it. And as people get, some people have the opposite effect. Some people are clone racing right now and they're over it. They're over getting run over. They're over getting taken out because everybody's so close. And there will come a batch of clone racers that decide, I'm done with this. I want to go open racing. And then you see the UAS grow and get bigger and the classes get bigger again. But yeah, down south has always been hit or miss. They have a decent showing in Florida, from what I know. I say decent, it's fair. Um, it's really there's a handful in the Carolinas. Um, there's a handful up here now. I'm trying to think where it's the biggest showings probably in Ohio right now. Ohio's probably got the most open carts that I can tell. Anytime I see their races, whatever, they're really into it. There's a lot of 450s out there. They do very well. Um, and what you do see them when you see the big shows, when money comes out to play, the Reaper National, the Horsepower Nationals, when it comes to the Big O, you're going to see a bunch show up there. Daytona, there's usually a pretty decent showing for UAS and open modified type stuff, but it's hit or miss. And tips on people coming up by racing or suggestions on where to upgrade at. Currently on a Predator cams. Uh coming up, it's my opinion on this is that if you're looking to go into open racing, you can do all the modifications that you want to, say, a clone. You can do it to a Predator. Um, Eventually, cubic dollars is going to interfere with performance. I've seen it before, and there is a place for it. I don't want to, dismiss it at all, because there are, big blocks and stuff like that that still exist, and there's obviously the big O race, flatheads, and there is a place for it, but it's cubic dollars. When you get into building those things, you're asking an industrial engine to do things that it wasn't meant to do. To whereas if you go get but I'm a two-stroke guy, and I've said this a million times, I am a two-stroke guy, but my biggest suggestion is if you're wanting to go to open racing, a 450, a MX motocross style 450 is hands down the way to go. You could shift it to start, rig up a shifter. There's more than enough power there for you to get yourself in trouble. But they're not nearly as finicky as a two-stroke is. Two-stroke racing is a handful. Tuning, knowing where the power curve is, not blowing it up, not getting it sticky on you, that type of thing. A 450 seems to have a less of a learning curve and a crap ton of power to boot. So my suggestion is if you're, yes, you can, if you want to get into playing around with if you want to get into playing around with putting a big bore in your Predator, if something along those lines, I think it's fantastic. But when you start looking at the price it takes to truly modify those to where they can kind of sort of compete with a real open, with a real UAS engine, open type engine, it's tough. It's you're gonna, if go ahead and spend $7,000, like I said, on a or on your clone, modifying it. Hey, I got this billet, blah blah blah, and I got this and that 270 over there is just gonna munch it. It is. That's a lot of There's on the low end 65 horsepower coming out of that two-stroke right there, and that's a lot of ponies just coming up out of the corner. It's tough. I've raced against those engines for a long time. Like I said in the beginning, the live Tecumseh Stars, I raced a lot. They could get serious horsepower out of them. They could get 50, 60 horsepower out of those things, but they're time bombs. Those industrial style parts aren't made for racing, to whereas an MX style engine, two-stroke or four-stroke, whatever it be, they're made to turn more RPM. Those components are made to take that type of abuse. So just my opinion, you can, do it if you want to get a little, if you have a class for it and you're willing to spend the money, knock yourselves out. I encourage everybody to go open racing. It is so much fun to actually have something underneath your right foot. I mean, it's, my debate with the clone is, do you lift? Don't you lift? I'm a lift kind of guy. I like to let the cart be free and set it up to where I have to lift, that type of thing. But there's people like them. You just stand on it and just and buzz around the oval. To where the open, you better lift, or else you're going to be pasted against the freaking wall. Okay, what do we got here? Yep, they were around $3,000. Yep, that's they can get pricey in a hurry. Now, and I'm not obviously giving you any crap here, but could you find a Honda 450 CR 450 for cheaper than that? Could you find it for $2,000, 2,500? And have just 50, 55 horsepower like that, and you're not even pushing the darn thing. That thing they'll run forever like that on pump gas without any modifications. I can tell you the 450s run really well though. People have put money into them. They don't have transmissions anymore. They have head work done to them. They have big bore kits in them. Insane type of horsepower stuff. Crazy. This is my son's first year racing at 5 years old. Oh, you're very welcome, and thank you very much for watching. Like I say it in videos, I can't be more appreciative of everybody that watches. I honestly don't care about the views. Somebody, I do get paid. I let you guys know that the reason you watch commercials during my videos is because I make a little bit of money. It's nothing crazy, a little over $100 usually. Um, 4 videos plus shorts plus these live streams that I do per month. It helps me race. Honestly, I'll get paid pretty soon here, and it'll help me go to a race. Planning on running the 27th. That's gas. That's maybe entry stuff like that. So I'm not getting rich doing this, but I don't care about the views as much as helping people. Anybody that reaches out, I don't have all the answers. I try and do my best to at least get you pointed in the right direction. Or if I don't know, I just tell you I don't know, man. There are some questions, asphalt questions are a real bear for me. It was The asphalt questions now for me are kind of like when I was running only the open cart, and then people are asking me about clone questions. Now I'm a little better knowledgeable about the clone stuff, not great at it, but when somebody asks me asphalt questions, it's like, oh boy, that's you're just, and I will do my best to answer you, but I feel bad sometimes that I can't give answers because I don't want to say the wrong thing and then have you come back like, hey man, that wasn't right at all. I'm like, yeah, because I don't know anything about it. Okay, where we are, restriction most people. Nice. Yeah, the animal is a great platform. Really, I wish there was more of it. The LO26 or whatever it is, Briggs and Stratton, they just messed the boat on some stuff. Um, they could be way bigger. I mean, that's clones are friggin' everywhere, and they just I don't know what went on there. Animals should be bigger. The LO26 or whatever the thing's called, that should be bigger. And I'm not saying it's not big in some. There's little pockets. The same with KT100s. I love Yamaha two-stroke racing, and those still could be a major factor everywhere, but it's just leadership, supply, demand, all these things. It's tough to see some packages not do. What's awesome though is my buddy Beef, Eric Grice. He used to have freight trained animals, uh, chain driven, both of them, and then clutched off that. I think it was jack shaft system, but he had two animals sitting freight train, nose to tail of one another. Woo, I lost my very first. I led green to white and won a UAS race. I was going to have my very first UAS victory, and I messed up the corner because I heard those two engines sink coming up behind me, and I goofed up the turn, and he took it from me on the last corner of the last white flag lap, and I gave up my first UAS win that way. So, yep, they said I tripped on my thingy when I gave that one up. Uh, how about this Adrenaline Mountain Kart track up here in New York Bend? I have not been there. Matter of fact, that is my intent to come to on the 27th. I think they're racing the 27th. Like I said, I don't want to just always run AMS. The problem with some of the Friday tracks is I work at 5 till 5 o'clock on Fridays, and I can't take a whole bunch of Fridays off. Gotta go Friday is what we call it at the body shop because everybody wants their car for the weekend. Um, totally understand, nothing against that. It's just when these tracks are an hour and a half away from me, it's really I would like to go and race them. It's just very tough for me to get out exactly be loaded up and ready to go, show up at my house, kiss my wife goodbye, hook up the trailer and roll out on a Friday night. So I want to hit different tracks on Saturday, but I'm also trying to keep, my finances aren't that great. So I'm trying to keep them within reason, within a couple hours. Adrenaline Mountain is one of the tracks I want to try. Dreamfield, they're just starting to open up. Brand new track. I want to get up there and try that. I see they logged some laps. I think it was last night. Track at the end of the time started to look really really good. So that's awesome. There's one down in PA that I wanted to get to. I'm trying to stay away from any kind of state racing. I know there's the Keystone Series down in PA and the Burris. You got to be on your game there. That I don't want to show up with I don't want to be ill prepared for that type of stuff. I want the experience. I want to, convey that to you guys. Hey, I went state racing. I went to the Burris Money Series. I went to the Keystone State Series. I want to do those things, but I want to learn this platform a little better for my first year. I don't want to throw myself. It took me a long time in open racing to get enough knowledge, get enough speed, get enough confidence to go and run in a national, go and run against some of the best karts out there. And I don't want to overstep my bounds because I have been racing for 20 years. I want to learn this package. I want to know the ins and outs of it, what I can and can't do with it, adjustments to the cart, that type of stuff. Obviously, tire knowledge before I go and go onto a bigger stage. And basically, I don't want to make a fool of myself. I want to be there. I go to race, not always to win, because there's much better people out there, but I want to be competitive. I don't want to show up and just be out to lunch. That's a terrible feeling. I know what happens, and it's gonna happen, but I'd rather not. I'd rather have my ducks in a row before I go and see some of that stuff. Lockhart is that PA track that I would like to get down to. I may not this year though. That was my intent. I miss kind of Vaga racing. I do. I want to run the Reapers. But Vaga Yellows are kind of my wheelhouse. That and Burris are kind of my thing from the years of UAS up here. But Vaga's always worked well for me. I was always pretty decent with them. So that's a track I know you can run those at. And some of the Friday night, stuff, I could run the Vegas there too, but I just haven't gotten a chance to. Asked a similar question before, but thoughts on rolling Maxis inside with goat to get them soft. Any idea? Set not roll better, prep would be better. We run backyard where use. Now I haven't run goat a ton. I have had some goat. I have used goat. I have also blended goat with other things, which I know is what a lot of people will do. So my knowledge about Go is fair at best. I prefer Track Tech products. Oh, buy Track Tech, but better than GoP. When you run GoP, there's honestly darn near a lot of not a lot that's better. It just plainly works. It also, after a period of time, that same wonderfulness that is giving you bite is going to destroy the tire. It is eventually going to turn. Once a goat tire, always a goat tire. And once you have applied it once, whether internally or externally, once you go that route, that chemical that is making it soft, that is making it bite, that is making it do all the things that you want to do, is eventually going to eat that rubber alive. The durometers are going to start to climb, and there's really no getting it back once it goes past a certain point. You can keep on hitting them with it, and it'll keep on being a goat tire and be soft and gooey and all that stuff. But it's tough internally. My experience is very little with it. When I'm getting an aggressive with a tire, I will run anywhere from 3 to 4 ounces internally for that tire. But you say dry and dusty, it's not always the case. Typically, dry and dusty, I wouldn't want a soft tire, but it really depends on how I want to say mealy it is. If the track has a tendency to break apart, a soft tire, even though it's dry and dusty, a soft tire will bite better than a harder tire. So there's that. If I were to tell you to do anything, I might only run say 2 ounces on the right sides, an ounce on the left sides internally with Go, and then I would get the durometer down from the outside. I always like to control durometer from the outside, not the inside. It's not the way everybody always does it. They like to, control, do the exact opposite, roll whatever it is internally to get the duro where they want it to be, and then that's that. Then they just do pre-race wipes and stuff like that, light stuff at the track. But I like to put something internally, get it to pass through the tread, give the whole carcass a element of bite, but then control how soft you're getting with the tire from the outside. It's just my opinion on that. That's yeah. There is the shape of a burris depends on what type of surface you're on. From what I know, soft, hard to get a hold of. You want a rounded edge. You want a what's called a round cut. If you have a hard fast track that you're running burris on, say down in, like I said, down in the series where the tracks get black and a lot of bite, you're going to want that much like a Maxis, a straight cut on it. So the edge is going to have the edge of the tire is literally going to have a type of edge on it. Now, as far as cutting them, shaving them down, again, depends on what type of surface you're on. I don't do cutting. Cuts do work up here on the soft stuff. I prefer it a little thicker. When you're, say, you're running 11s or running, a track that doesn't have a ton of bite on it. Whereas a faster, a good track that is biting up, that's getting that black groove, you're going to want that tread a lot thinner. So it really depends on what type of surface you're actually running on. Hey, I was wondering about some stuff about sprockets. Well, toss it my way. I'll do my best to answer you. Good internal prep or outside prep for a dry and dust track then. Black sand is always a great choice for anybody. Hold on. Black sand. Black sand. You can pre-prep it the week before. Put some straight wipes of black sand on it. 2-3 coats. Let it dry. Let it set for the rest of the week. And then come race day, people like to cut that 50-50 with Acrosol. That helps it dry at track. That really helps with the super dry and dusty. Internally, it's, the only reason I suggest Track Tack is because that's what I use. There are many good other brands out there if you want to use them instead. Internally, I would just, if it's a dry and dusty track, I wouldn't go crazy. I would use something a bit more milder. If I was running, like I said, I run Track Tack stuff. I would do internally, I would do some GK1 Blue, or I would run some AT2 or SST, something light. I would like I said, a couple ounces on the right side, an ounce on the left side, just to give something for the it goes through the carcass, that adds a bit of bite to it. And then I would treat the exterior with black sand. If anything, just if you buy black sand and Acrosol, just use that as a pre-race wipe at track. It should help a lot with the dry and dusty stuff. Okay. Okay, so when I hit the gas, don't get speed right off the bat like others. The type of sprocket should I use, the bigger or smaller? Okay, if you're running too small of a rear gear, let's see if I can. This is dirty, guys, so don't give me crap on this. I'm trying to change your own. Okay, here's my rear gear. This is a 61, I believe it is. So if you're not getting off the corner as fast, you're going to want a bigger gear here. And because the smaller this is, the more straightaway speed you're going to have. So if they're getting off the corner, I would increase the rear gear size to get up off the corner. Of course, staying with whatever your engine builder or whatever target RPM you're going to have. If you're playing with the front sprocket, it is the opposite. If you're dealing with a clutch gear, the smaller driver will get you up off the corner better than a bigger one is. So it's kind of dissimilar. It's different. With torch or without torch, at track or at home. The black sand, I don't torch anything in at home. If you're the only time I would suggest torching anything in is if you're in a pinch. If you need to grow a tire, if you need to shrink a tire, if you need to build bite in a hurry, you can do it then. I prefer naturally drying stuff, especially at home. Black sand, for instance, say it's Sunday, I'm prepping a set of tires for next Saturday. I'm just going to go with a clean tire, surface it if you want, give it a wipe, let that dry. Come back, make sure it's dry. Give it another wipe, let that dry. Until 3 coats, 4 coats, however many you determine the amount of bite with, say, black sand is. Then when you're at track, go out, before you go out, if you're 50-50 with black sand Acrosol, give it a wipe. that will help the tire come in a little faster, especially the Acrosol, and it will help the tire bite, come in, clean your tires. Choose whether or not you want to run another pre-race wipe or not. It really determines. I wouldn't torch anything in unless you're just, it depends. People have different tires. People have different tracks and experiences. Usually, I don't torch anything in unless it's a cooler night and you need to get your durometer down. You need to pound in something softer, like better than GoPro, for instance, or GoPro, for instance. Then torch in, because you want that prep deep set. You want it to go out there and get you bite where you don't have. If it's dry and dusty track, I don't think you're gonna want to torch that in. It's just my opinion, though. I'm one man. I have only certain amount of experience, so take it for what it's worth. Oh, geez, I just noticed this. I've been rambling on almost an hour all by myself. It depends on size of the track. I have inch and a half front, inch and a half rear, but that's that small bull ring that you see me run. Um, so I would dare go a little more in the rear. Recons, from my experience, UAS, that I used to, I started off, or not started off, but I used to run a UAS recon. Um, they love rear stagger. It really does help the cart turn in the center corner. I know some carts, it tends to lower the cross setting on it. Some carts are subject to that, but I personally think that the Recon loves rear stagger. It loved it in my UAS ride. It tends to, so far, the more I seem to be putting to it in the clone, really seems to like it. But then again, small boiler ring type stuff. So uh, do with that what you will. That's there's a problem, not a problem. It might be a problem. But Reapers are I can't get stagger in those rear things. I'm having maybe an inch and 3/8, which I prefer more, but they're very difficult to move. I'll give them that. uh, you can uh, if you want to not torch anything, put it out in the sun. Heat the tire up, do a wipe, heat the tire, put it back out in the sun, let that dry, do it a wipe. It will drop. You can torch it if you want. I'm not telling you not to take a hot box. If you really want to get the duro down, hot box and goat, or better than goat pea, that's the way to go. It really, really works. Once you expand those molecules and hit them with an aggressive prep, the durometer is going to more than likely drop. If you don't have if you don't want to torch it, torching is inconsistent. The sun would be very consistent. Obviously, a hot box, very consistent. Torching in is going to give streaks of hot bands, so you're a little more inconsistent heat source. Then I'd say that the sun, put them out in the sun, get them nice and toasty, put a wipe on, let that cure out in the sun, toasty. You see where I'm going with that. It's John. What is John's? It depends on what track I go to. I've been to three. I've only raced on two this year, but they're all right around a tenth, which is a real, maybe a tick bigger than tenth, closer to an eighth. At John's AMS is the one that I'm thinking of. Um, I miss big tracks really bad. I'm not sure I would miss it so much with a clone, but I miss Paradise Speedway. I mean, that was 3/8 of a mile in the lane or in the race line, quarter mile on the inside. So you really got, I was, what I hit, 79.8 mile an hour or something like that at the end of the straightaway. I was running 16-second lap times on a quarter mile. Hauling the mail, 55 mile an hour center corner on my open, just chugging. And now to go to, these little 10th miles is, it's an experience. It's quite the experience. Yeah. Yeah. I would try and run. I would try and run more, try more rear stagger. Just whatever you're running now. I loved an inch and a quarter to an inch and 3/8 on my open. It always seemed to be what worked for me. But there again, once I got into the clone, it gave me a little more, I'd say, hey, what are we running for rear stagger in it? And hey, run an inch and a half. I'm like, oh, all right, maybe more if you can tolerate it. It just helps the center. It really helps that cut to where you can drive in. Now it will and can affect, getting off the corner and stuff like. I found that more stagger really upsets an open more than it does a clone. Getting off the corner as far as bite wise, I know that you are giving up a little here or there. You're giving away some roll speed ish, kind of with more rear stagger, but it affects the open more than it does the clone. I think the clone really benefits from a lot of rear stagger, just my opinion. Yeah, I would try. I would try a little more stagger. See if it really likes it. It's worth a shot anyway. Maybe it's like I kind of learned with the open that maybe I have been missing something just because I was stuck in my ways. Like, oh, it really liked this one time. I was running a lot of right front camber at the high bank track, and I am currently not running a lot of right front camber on the clone. And it's just like, oh man, was I missing the boat because I got so stuck in my ways that I was one time super fast at this track that I didn't want to, this always worked here. And then it didn't work. And I was like, what the heck? And then I started running something complete freaking different on the clone cart. And I'm like, dude, why not try that on this the next time? That's what I'm saying. That next time I go UAS racing on my open, I'm going to throw a whole different setup on this thing and see if it behaves differently. I preach on here the videos that I do. Just like don't get stuck in a rut. Always, always try something different. And there I was doing the same freaking thing over and over again, and be like, ooh, it doesn't work. So nice. Yes, big fan of KT100s. Unfortunately, I sold mine. I just had a call friend of mine that I used to run with at Paradise. He was just like, "Oh, we're trying to get a," and I was just like, "Dude, I sold my stuff." Just like there's nowhere to run them. I would have to drive 4.5 hours to go run a series with them, and I was just like, I can't do that. I can't afford to do that. That's a long stretch to run here and there, and I kind of wanted to get away from that driving for freaking ever to go to a race. I don't mind doing it every now and again, whatever race it is I need to go to, but also that's all I ever did for UAS for many years. But yes. A freaking hour already. Yes, holy crap, it's 8:04. I do have stuff to do. Unfortunately, Wesley was not able to get on here. I have the questions written down. So hopefully he is less busy next week and we can get him on here. If not, do I have a P.O. box? I do not have a P.O. box. If you need to get a hold of me, Kart63 at gmail.com. Pop over there. We can talk about stuff. I don't have a PO box, so I'm not that important. I'm just a dude. Look. My sister had that made for me. I am in Taft Raceway. Uh, just a dude in Western New York who tries to help racing people out. So, all right, guys. Yeah, I have the rest of the questions that we'll address next week with Wesley because he is far more knowledgeable about that stuff. I do not want to ever give anybody any information that I am not confident on. I'd be talking about my rear end, and I don't want to do that to you people. I want you to have the best of luck possible whenever you go racing, and that can't happen if I'm feeding you a bunch of bull crap because I was being pompous and I know everything about car races. I don't know everything about car races. So anyway, guys, I'm gonna bounce off here. I got stuff to do. I gotta go feed a cat. My grandma's out of town. I gotta go feed her cat, and we gotta do some stuff. I gotta get a shower and yeah. Anyway, thank you very much for stopping by. As always, I'll post this up. I'll post this up on Dirt Kart Racer, and if anybody wants to go and view it at a later date, any stupid crap I might have said that, hey, I think you said this, you'll be able to go Dirt Kart Racer on Facebook and check that out in the replay. And thank you very much, guys, for stopping by. I'll see you next week. All right, later.